After 30 years of working 2 jobs and saving every penny, I finally achieved my American dream. I purchased 20 acres of pristine mountain property, my slice of heaven where I planned to build a modest cabin for retirement. The deed was clear. Private land, no restrictions, completely mine. But when I returned from a 3-month work assignment overseas, my heart nearly stopped. There, carved into my peaceful mountainside, was a massive concrete driveway leading to a sprawling luxury home that definitely wasn't there when I left. I sat in my truck, hands shaking, checking my GPS 3 times. This couldn't be right. The coordinates matched perfectly. This enormous house was sitting dead center on my land. Neighbor walking her dog saw my confusion and approached my window. "Oh, you must be the landowner everyone's been talking about," she said sympathetically. "I'm so sorry, but the Mountain View HOA decided your property was part of their expansion zone. They approved construction for one of their board members who wanted a weekend retreat. The family moved in 2 months ago." My blood ran cold. "They did WHAT on my property." She said gently. "You need to talk to Karen Peterson, the HOA president. I'll warn you, she's not going to make this easy." That night, I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. I stared at my original property deed until my eyes burned. 30 years of sacrifice, and someone had stolen my dream right out from under me. The next morning, I walked up that stone driveway with my deed in hand, my heart pounding like a drum. I knocked on the door of what should have been my peaceful mountain view. A well-dressed man in his 50s answered, coffee mug in hand, looking completely at ease. "Good morning, beautiful day, isn't it?" "Sir," I said, my voice steadier than I felt, "I need to inform you that you're living on my property. This house was built on land that belongs to me." His friendly expression vanished. "Excuse me? That's impossible. The HOA granted us a deed to this land. We paid good money for the construction permits." I held up my official documents. "This is my original deed, recorded with the county. Your HOA had no authority to grant you anything." Barely glanced at the papers. "Look, friend, if you've got issues with the HOA, take it up with Karen Peterson. She handles all the paperwork. But I'm not going anywhere based on some old document." Door closed in my face, and I stood there stunned. This stranger was living in luxury on my land, and he didn't seem to care about the truth staring him in the face. Karen Peterson held court in the community center like a queen on her throne. She was surrounded by HOA board members, all nodding along as she spoke about protecting property values and maintaining community standards. When I approached with my documents, her eyes narrowed. "And you are?" "I'm the owner of the 20 acres where you just built a house," I said firmly. She actually laughed a cold, calculated sound. "Young man, let me explain how things work in the real world. This community has plans, approved plans. Your little piece of paper doesn't change the fact that this area is now part of our jurisdiction. Ma'am, with all due respect, you can't just claim private property." "I have a legal deed." "What you have," she interrupted, "is a problem. You can either join our HOA, pay the appropriate fees, and accept our authority, or you can sell us the land at fair market value. Those are your options." The room fell silent. I felt the eyes of every board member on me, waiting to see if I'd back down, double quotes. "Mrs. Peterson," I said quietly, "what you've done is called theft. You've built on my land without permission. That house has to go." Her smile was like ice. "Honey, you have no idea what you're up against. We have lawyers, we have influence, and we have time. You'll spend every penny you have fighting us, and you'll still lose. Save yourself the heartache and take our offer." I walked out of that meeting knowing I was in for the fight of my life. My attorney, Tom Rodriguez, reviewed all the documents with growing amazement. "This is incredible," he said. "They have absolutely no legal right to build on your property. The house is completely illegal." "So what do we do?" I asked. "We file an injunction, demand immediate removal of the structure, and sue for damages. But I have to warn you, this could take years and cost a fortune." Years. While strangers enjoyed my mountain paradise, I'd be drowning in legal fees. That night I drove up to my property and parked at the gate they'd installed. Yes, they'd gated my land. I walked up to where my favorite old oak tree used to stand. It cut it down to make room for their driveway. That 100-year-old tree I'd planned to build my cabin around was just gone. I sat on the stump and wept, not just for the tree, but for the violation of everything I'd worked for. This wasn't just about property. This was about justice. About whether regular folks like me had any rights left in this world. As I sat there in the darkness, looking at the lights blazing, in the illegal mansion, a thought crystallized in my mind. Sometimes when the system fails you, you have to take matters into your own hands. I spent weeks researching property law, talking to contractors, and consulting with Tom. The law was crystal clear. As the legal property owner, I had every right to remove unauthorized structures from my land. Are you absolutely sure about this? Tom asked when I explained my plan. It's legal, but it's going to cause quite a stir. Tom, I said, I'm 58 years old. I've worked my whole life for this piece of land. I'm not spending my final working years in court while thieves enjoy my property. I hired Mountain State Demolition, showed them my deed, had them verify everything with the county, and scheduled the job for the following Tuesday. The morning of demolition, I arrived at dawn to find neighbors lining the road with cell phones and cameras. Karen Peterson stood at the front of the crowd, screaming into her phone, "Get down here now! He's actually going to do it." When the first excavator's claw bit into the roof, the crowd gasped. Windows exploded, walls crumbled, and Karen shrieked. Like a banshee, "You're destroying community property. I'll have you arrested." I walked over to her calmly. "Mrs. Peterson, community property is built on community land. This is my land." And that was an illegal structure. By sunset, the mansion was nothing but a pile of debris. I stood on my reclaimed property as the demolition crew packed up, and for the first time in months, I felt peace. The lawsuits came fast and furious. The HOA demanded $2 million for destruction of community assets. The displaced family sued for emotional distress. Karen Peterson held press conferences calling me a dangerous vigilante. Tom just smiled as he prepared our defense. They built illegally on private property, he told the judge. My client had every right to remove unauthorized structures from his own land. The courtroom was packed when the case went to trial. Karen took the witness stand in her best suit, crocodile tears flowing as she talked about community destruction and rogue property owners. When it was my turn to testify, I simply told the truth. I showed the judge my deed, the survey maps, and the complete lack of building permits for my property. Your Honor, I said, I'm not a rich man. I worked 2 jobs for 30 years to buy. This land, all I ever wanted was a quiet place to retire. I never asked for this fight. But when someone steals your dreams, you have to stand up for what's right. The judge's ruling was swift and decisive. The defendants had no legal authority to build on plaintiff's property. The structure was illegal, and Mr. Hunter had every right to remove it. Furthermore, defendants are ordered to pay restitution for trespassing, environmental damage, and legal fees in the amount of $2.1 million. The courtroom erupted. Karen Peterson collapsed into her chair, and I finally exhaled after holding my breath for months. Within 6 months, the Mountain View HOA dissolved under the weight of the judgment and member lawsuits. Karen Peterson declared bankruptcy and moved out of state. The family who'd lived in the illegal mansion received a harsh lesson about checking property deeds before building dream homes. As for me, I used part of the settlement money to properly restore my land. I replanted native trees where the mansion had scarred the earth. I built the modest cabin I'd always dreamed of, positioned perfectly to catch the sunrise over the ridge. Today, I sit on my porch every morning with my coffee, watching deer graze in the meadow they've tried to pave over. Sometimes visitors ask about the crazy property war they heard about on the news. I tell them it wasn't crazy at all. It was about something fundamental. The right to own property in America. The right to chase your dreams without fear of theft, and the courage to stand up when powerful people think they can steal from regular folks. My mountain is quiet now. It's the way it was always meant to be. And every sunrise reminds me that sometimes, if you're willing to fight for what's right, justice still exists in this world. The American dream isn't dead. But sometimes you have to demolish a few illegal mansions to prove it.